Hello dear friends. Today in this video I'm going to talk about labor cost control. So let's begin with the introduction. Labor cost is one of the important element of production. Wages, salaries and other incentives of employee remuneration constitute a very large component of operating cost. Remuneration of employees is a vital factor, not only affecting the cost of production but also industrial relations of the organization. Dear friends, under the present political conditions, with restive labor as an organized industry, it is very difficult to reduce the labor cost. Therefore, proper control and accounting for labor cost are one of the most important problems for business enterprise. Correct. And labor cost means the cost of labor is the sum of all wages paid to employees as well as the cost of employees benefit and payroll taxes paid by an employer. So what is labor cost? So it is labor cost is the sum of all the wages paid to the employees as well as the cost of employee benefits and payroll taxes paid by an employer. Correct. So this labor cost is also, it is a payment of remuneration to the workers for their service to the firm. So it is a payment of remuneration for the service to the firm is also known as labor cost. And there is also we have another meaning here. Labor cost representing the human contribution to production is an important cost factor which requires constant control and measurement and analysis. So this meaning says that it is representing the human contribution to the production. Human contribution. So labor cost represents human contribution. Correct. So labor cost is sensitive in nature. The reason is that the labor cost is fully based on human behavior, that is labor behavior. So the control of labor cost requires the control of labor behavior. Therefore, the management should study human behavior, performance of labor, time and motion study, labor turnover, then labor approach in order to control the labor cost. And labor cannot be stored for future reference, right? It is not material in nature. We cannot store the labor for future reference. So it is very much similar to perishable in nature of materials. Some materials may lose its quality and not used for the purpose of production. Correct. So such materials will be waste ones. See, if you cannot use any material for production, such materials are waste. Likewise, once labor is lost, the same cannot be recovered and not effectively used in the days to come. So next we have types of labor cost. So labor cost is classified into two important classifications. So the first one is direct labor cost and the second one is indirect labor cost. So let us see what is direct labor cost. Direct labor is the labor which is directly engaged in the production of goods and services, such as workers on machine, shoemakers in machine shoemaking. So these are direct laborers. So direct laborers refers to the labor force which is directly engaged in the production of finished goods and rendering services. So as I said, worker on machine. So any worker is working in the machine is known, that person becomes the direct labor. So that means he is directly involved in the production of semi finished goods into finished goods. And that labor cost is that portion of salary or a wage which can be identified with and charged to a single unit of production, and he will be engaged directly in the production process. And this direct labor cost is always measured quantitatively and it is sufficiently material in amount. So this is about direct labor. The second one we have indirect labor. So this indirect labor, it is not identifiable within the production of goods and services even though directly incurred. So these costs are incurred in the production place. Sometimes some costs enter may some cost center may render service to the production department or production activities. So such cost centers are like purchase, engineering, timekeeping are an example for direct labor departments. And watchman, example is watchman. So watchman is not directly engaged in the production process, but he is also important for production departments, he is also important for organization. And foremen, gardener, cleaners, these people are not directly engaged in the production process, they are not involved in converting the raw materials or semi finished goods into finished goods, but they are also part of the organization. Indirectly they will be helping the production department. So the amount, the salary or wage which is paid to those employees is known as indirect labor cost. So this is about the types of labor. And next we have labor turnover. So what is labor turnover? A very important concept. So labor turnover denotes the percentage of change in labor force of an organization. So what is this percentage of change? So this labor turnover refers to, it is an index denoting change in the labor force of an organization during a specified period of time. So if any employee is replaced, if any employee is promoted, if any employee is changed from one job to another, that is known as labor turnover during the period of during the specified period of organization. That is labor turnover. So high percentage of labor turnover denotes that labor is not stable, correct? So if you always doing turnover of an employees, your production is not stable, correct? So you should see that our organization should see that the employees are not labor turnover is not frequent, it is not say stable, correct? So labor turnover is very important concept that management should take care in every organization. Okay, so next we have the important thing is causes of labor turnover. I just said what is labor turnover. Now we have causes of labor turnover. So why labor turnover in the organization? Why employees leave the organization? Why the management is going to replace the employees? Correct. So as I said, labor turnover is a rate or percentage of change in the labor force of an organization during a specified period of time is known as labor turnover. And labor turnover may result from many causes, correct? So the causes responsible for labor turnover may be classified into two broad categories. They are avoidable causes and unavoidable causes. So what are avoidable causes? The various avoidable causes responsible for labor turnover, fault selection of employees is one cause. Then lack of proper training facilities, sometimes the organization will not give them proper training, that is also one of the cause for the labor turnover. Then bad working conditions, then lack of safety measures in the organization. So if there is no safety, employees are going to leave the organization, okay? They will look for the better opportunity. And low wages, then insecurity of services, then inadequate retirement benefits, then lack of incentives. These are some avoidable causes. The management can avoid such causes. Employee management can give the increase their salary, they should start giving more incentives, they should start giving more benefits to retain the employees. If management doesn't fulfill the needs of workers, obviously definitely they are going to leave the organization, and these are avoidable causes. And next one we have unavoidable causes, and there are some causes which cannot be controlled by even from the or management or organization. So these causes are like death. So death is not in our control, so management can't do anything with this, correct? So this is an unavoidable cause. And retirement of an employee, then accidents of an employee, then if the employee doesn't like to work in the organization, management can't do anything. Then domestic responsibilities will be there, some personal problems will be there, then change of service for personal betterment, and immoral character of an employees. So these are the few causes for labor turnover. Okay, so this is about the causes. Next we have measurement of labor turnover. So how do we measure this labor turnover? So I told what is labor turnover. So how do we measure this labor turnover? So labor turnover is the ratio of number of workers leaving the factory during a given period to the average number of workers in employment during the same period. And measurement of turnover is an important problem for determining the number of people to be recruited at a particular point of time. Its knowledge assists the management in a number of ways. And the labor turnover is measured by the following three methods. So the first one we have separate method, replacement method, and flux method. So let us see what is separation method. So according to this method, turnover rate is measured by dividing the usual number of separations during a period by the average number of workers on the payroll during the same period. That is, turnover rate is equals to number of separations in a period divided by average number of workers in the period into 100. So separation method, it is just a turnover rate measured by the number of employees left, number of separations divided by average number of workers in the specified period. That is separation method. And the next method we have replacement method. So what is replacement? This method takes into consideration only actual replacement of employees. That means if 10 employees leave the organization is going to employ only 10 employees. So 10 employees are replaced the place of the existing employees. So that is the replacement method irrespective of number of people leaving. So it is to be noted that in case new workers are employed on account of expansion of the business, so they should not be included in the replacements. Correct. So this is the, and here is the formula to calculate the turnover rate. So labor turnover is equals to number of workers replaced during a period divided by average number of workers during a period into 100. So this is the formula which we are going to use to find out the labor turnover under replacement method. And the last method is flux method. So what is flux method? So this method takes into consideration both the number of replacements and number of separations. So it is a combination of both replacement and separation method. And here is the formula to calculate labor turnover under flux method. Number of separations plus number of additions. So number of separations we are going to find out in the first method, and the number of additions under replacement method. We are going to get the rate under replacement method divided by average number of employees during a period into 100. So if we use this formula, we are going to get labor turnover under flux method. So it is to be noted that turnover can neither be completely avoided nor is it desirable. However, its rate can be kept at a considerably low level by taking such steps which improves employee morale and creates a congenial atmosphere in the organization. So dear students, these are the three important methods in labor turnover. Okay, so hope you guys are going to understand this theory part, and in the next video let us discuss the methods of labor control and the numerical problems. Thank you.